Imagine conquering an empire. Every empire before him enslaved the defeated, burned their gods, erased their future. Then one king did the unthinkable. He set his enemies free. His name was Cyrus, and the world has never been the same. This is the story of the Persian king who became a Jewish Messiah, and the bridge between civilizations we forgot. But to understand how one man could change so much, we first have to understand what conquering an empire actually meant back then. Imagine conquering an empire. You've defeated your enemies. Their cities are yours. Their people kneel before you. The ancient world had a very clear playbook for what comes next. Enslave the population, burn the temples, erase the culture. But what if you did the opposite? What if you told your new subjects, your God is your God, your home is your home. Go back, rebuild, you are free. This is not fable or mythology. This is exactly what Cyrus the Great did, over 1,500 years ago. Yet despite creating one of history's most revolutionary acts of governance, his legacy is fading, carved up and claimed by competing nationalisms. Today, we're going to tell the whole story, because the real legacy of Cyrus isn't just Persian or Jewish. It belongs to the entire arc of human civilization. And in our forgetting of it, we've lost a blueprint for how different peoples can actually coexist. Cyrus II of Persia was born around 600 BCE in Anshan, southern Iran. He was a prince of the Achaemenid dynasty, a relatively minor royal house under the powerful Median Empire. But Cyrus was not content to remain minor. In 550 BCE, he led a revolt against his grandfather, the Median king Astyages, and won. He then defeated King Croesus of Lydia. Within 30 years, Cyrus had assembled the largest empire the world had ever seen, stretching from the Aegean coast to the borders of India. It was unprecedented. And then came the moment that changed everything. In 539 BCE, Cyrus marched on Babylon, the greatest city in the known world. It was not just a city, but an idea. It was the center of culture, commerce, and cosmic order. And it fell, almost without a fight. Ancient records tell us that Cyrus entered not as a destroyer, but as a liberator. He did not loot the temples or massacre the population. He made offerings to Marduk, the chief Babylonian god, showing respect for a religion not his own. Then, he issued a decree. This decree was recorded on the Cyrus Cylinder, discovered in 1879 in Babylon's ruins, and now in the British Museum. It is one of the most remarkable documents in human history. Cyrus declared that the peoples deported by Babylonian kings would be allowed to return. They could rebuild their temples and worship their gods. The cylinder speaks of compassion and divine mandate. It speaks of a king who understood that empire does not require erasure. Among those in Babylonian captivity were the Jews. Their story is one of the defining traumas of the ancient world. In 586 BCE, the Babylonian king Nebuchadnezzar destroyed Solomon's temple in Jerusalem, the holiest place in Jewish faith. He deported the Jewish population to Babylon in chains. The Psalms written during this exile still echo with grief. By the rivers of Babylon, we sat and wept. They waited, they prayed, they wondered if God had abandoned them. Then Cyrus came. The Hebrew Bible, in the book of Ezra, records his decree in stunning detail. Cyrus declared that the God of Israel had commanded him to allow the Jewish people to return to Jerusalem and rebuild the temple. He didn't just grant permission. He returned the sacred vessels Nebuchadnezzar had stolen and funded the rebuilding effort. The Jewish response was unlike anything recorded about a foreign ruler. The prophet Isaiah names Cyrus explicitly. He calls him the shepherd of God. He calls him God's anointed, in Hebrew, Mashiach. The text says, "Thus says the Lord to his anointed, to Cyrus, whose right hand I have grasped." This is the only time in the entire Hebrew Bible that this title is given to a non-Jewish ruler, not a believer in the God of Israel, a Persian king, a Zoroastrian, a conqueror, and yet Messiah. What made Cyrus different? The ancient world had a standard approach to empire, dominion. Through conquest, crushing dissent, and uprooting people, Cyrus broke this pattern completely. Part of the answer may lie in Zoroastrianism, the religion of early Persians. Zoroastrian theology emphasizes the cosmic battle between truth, Asha, and lie, Druj. A just ruler rules through righteousness, not terror. Part of it was pragmatic. An empire that doesn't constantly crush rebellions is cheaper to run, but part seems genuinely personal. The capital Cyrus built at Pasargadae has a quiet, meditative quality, built to reflect dignity, not domination. His tomb is a simple stone structure, 6 stepped plinths, and a small chamber. For a man who ruled half the known world, it is shockingly modest. The relationship forged between Persian and Jewish worlds under Cyrus was one of history's most remarkable cultural alliances. Jewish scholars in Babylonian exile had engaged with Babylonian astronomy, mathematics, and philosophy. When they returned to Jerusalem under Persian protection, they brought this knowledge with them. Persian administrative efficiency helped rebuild Judean society. Persian imperial theology, emphasizing cosmic order and righteous kingship, influenced Jewish theological development during this critical period. The Persian royal road, stretching thousands of miles, became a channel for ideas as much as goods. Jewish and Persian thought were in active conversation. Some scholars argue that Persian concepts, the cosmic battle of good and evil, resurrection of the dead, final judgment, left traces in later Jewish and, by extension, Christian and Islamic theology. This is civilizational cross-pollination on a massive scale, made possible by one man who created the political conditions for one of the most consequential cultural exchanges in religious history. But why civilizational unrest is exploding now? So why don't we talk about this more? The honest answer? Nationalism is a simplifying machine. Modern Iran looks at Cyrus and sees the founder of Persian imperial greatness, a symbol of Iranian. Modern Israel looks at Cyrus and sees a divine instrument, a miraculous fulfillment of prophecy, validating the Jewish historical continuity. Both views are real and meaningful, but both are incomplete because they each take Cyrus and make him theirs, erasing the part where he belonged to everyone. Iran and Israel today are locked in one of the world's most dangerous geopolitical confrontations. They are presented and often present themselves as civilizational enemies. Yet at the very root of both civilizations, there is this man, this Persian king who freed a Jewish people. This moment where these two worlds did not clash, but held each other up. That story is not convenient for anyone who needs a clean enemy. So it gets simplified, compartmentalized, filed away, and humanity is forever diminished by it. We abandoned it, and the blueprint we lost. Cyrus the Great did not create a perfect world. He was a conqueror, an empire builder. Men died in his name. But he demonstrated something the ancient world had never quite seen, and that we still struggle to practice today, that you can hold power without destroying what came before you, that the gods of your enemies deserve respect, that people forcibly torn from their homes have the right to return, that diversity, properly honored, makes an empire stronger, not weaker. The Cyrus Cylinder is often called the world's first charter of human rights. The impulse behind it was real, and the effects were real. The Second Temple was built. Jewish civilization continued. A chain of events was set in motion that touched Christianity, Islam, and the moral architecture of the modern world, all because a Persian king looked at his Babylonian captives and said, "Go home." The Persian and Jewish worlds were not always enemies. There was a time, a real, historical, documented time, when they were bound together by one of the most remarkable acts of political generosity in recorded history. That time existed. That relationship was real. And remembering it isn't nostalgia. It's a reminder that civilizations are not destined to be enemies. They were not always enemies, and they do not have to remain so. History is not just what happened. Cyrus is gone. His empire crumbled long ago, but the question he left behind still stands. Do we remember that we were never meant to be enemies? That is the legacy. Not Persian, not Jewish, human, and it's still waiting for us. If this story moved you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Subscribe for more forgotten stories that shaped the world we live in today.